Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Ben Stone and you are watching canalgratis.com. And as you can tell, I'm in my garage, not on the water. Today I've got something a little different. Today I'm going to be discussing how to install a very, very important and effective piece of equipment on my boat, that being a splash guard. Now this might look a little funny to some of you if you haven't seen one of these before, but what this is basically a piece of plexiglass that is designed to go on the transom of your boat. And what this does is protect waves from coming up the back of the boat. This is great if you have a tiller boat like I do, if you're back trolling, or even if you just have a normal boat, say a center console or whatever it be, just backing up into waves. This stops water from coming into the back of your boat. So it's gonna keep you dry. Yeah, today I just got these, so we are going to install them. I'm gonna show you the entire process. This particular set is by a company called Whitecap Manufacturing, located in Shakopee, Minnesota. To me, this is an absolute necessity, so let's get to work. So obviously when it comes to drilling into your transom on your boat, you want to take all the precautions necessary to ensure that you don't ruin your boat. And one of those things includes reading the instructions. Of course, I'm doing a tutorial video today, but every set of splash guards is going to come with a set of instructions and also a picture of what you should expect it to look like once you're done installing. Some of the necessary tools are going to include having a powder drill, 2 drill bits that are meant to drill through steel, that being a 5/16 and a 5/32. And arguably one of the more important things is marine grade silicone. This is going to seal your holes to ensure that there's never any water leaking out of the back of your transom. Of course, if you have water leaking in the back of your transom, you're going to have a huge problem. So make sure you have proper marine grade silicone. And on top of all of this, your splash guards are going to come with all of the necessary hardware to install your splash guards. So of course you have screws, bolts, nuts, your mounting brackets, and of course in the box, the splash guards themselves. So what I'm going to do now is get to work on my port side splash guard. It's pretty self-explanatory, but let's get to work. So the first step that I'm going to take for mounting my port side splash guard is actually going to be to size it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the mounting brackets that the splash guard is going to sit in, and basically I'm going to just size this up. So I'm going to place that bracket in there in the center of the splash guard where it would be, and all I'm going to do is make sure all of my straps and such are out of the way. So I have the full transom here to place the splash guard against. And there's 2 things I'm keeping in mind. The first thing that I'm keeping in mind is I want that splash guard to be as high as it possibly can to get the maximum use of deflecting that water away from the boat. If I have it too low, water's still gonna get up there. The second thing is making sure that it's not too close to my motor because I don't want to hinder my steering ability at all. So with that being said, I'll just put it up here. And you can see here, this top of the flex is just at about the top of my boat here. So that's gonna be doing the maximum amount of work necessary to deflect that water. You can see I still have room to put my tie down straps, but if I look at my motor, that's not gonna rub too bad. Of course, we wanna make sure that that rubber material is against the outboard so I'm not having water splash in between. But right there, I'm pretty happy with my placement. So my next step here is to remove the splash guard and keep the bracket here and basically just mark one of those holes and drill that hole and basically get this first hole in the bracket set, screwed in with marine silicone. And then what I can then do is grab a level and make sure that my splash guard is going to be perfectly level. So in my case, since I don't have an easy way to mark this hole, I'm just going to do a light marking with my drill on the transom. Now I can get all this other stuff out of the way. And now on my transom, I have a small marker hole that I can now puncture through and get ready to take the first step at mounting this splash guard. So now that my hole is drilled, what I want to do is grab this bracket and we're just going to put 1 screw in. So it's going to move freely. It's going to give us the chance to get that level. And I'm just going to get that marine silicone on that bolt. Now I've got my screw coated with marine silicone. We're going to level this out. Once we have it perfectly level, using our level, we'll punch that last hole, and then basically we have our mounting bracket in place and we can move on to ensuring that splash guard never moves out of place. We'll grab our screw and our level. Now we just want to ensure that this bracket is as level as possible. So I'm pretty happy with that placement right there. So again, last step, we'll get some marine silicone on that hole. Once that's all set to go, we will get that screwed in there so it can start to cure. And now our mounting bracket is firm in place we can begin to move on to the next step. So now the next step in the process is to actually place our splash guard on and put on the final L brackets that are gonna keep this in place, keep it from vibrating against the boat, and also make these very, very easily removable if you are traveling or you just want them off in general to go swimming or something. So what I'm gonna do now is, since we will be drilling into this splash guard, I'm going to remove the protective coating, which is very satisfying. And we will just put that back up on our bracket. And now the next step is to get inside the boat, size our L brackets up, and once we are done drilling those holes and getting those set in, this port side splash guard will be installed, ready to go bounce off some big waves. This next step is a very important step, and that is putting in the L brackets. Not only is it gonna keep this splash guard secure, it's also gonna make it easily removable, but the one thing that I wanna keep in mind when mounting these L brackets is I don't want the splash guard pressed right up against the transom, because what that's gonna do is cause vibration. So what I wanna do is make sure I have these brackets hanging off about a 1/4 inch off the transom. So that's gonna give it some wiggle room, and it's basically gonna act as sort of a cushion so that the splash guard isn't constantly bumping our transom. So what I'll do is just take the first one here and put it on. And basically, I want these two as far apart as possible to ensure that there's no bending or wiggling. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of move that up, and I just want to make sure that the bottom and the top of the L bracket is flush. So you can see I already marked 2 holes here because that's exactly where I want it placed. So now what I can do is move this L bracket out of the way, punch these 2 holes out, and get this first L bracket mounted in, and then I can move on to the second one. So I'm not doing these simultaneously, I'm doing them one at a time. Let's get to work. So I've got my 2 holes marked here, as you can tell. We will just begin by drilling those out. So now that I've got 1 hole, it's basically following that same exact process as that plastic bar. I'm gonna get 1 screw set in first, and then just make sure that I have that secondary hole perfectly lined up. So I'll do the second hole and move on to the last L bracket, and this splash guard is basically set to go. We just have 1 quick step to do at the end here. And now, just like that, that first L bracket is set to go, so we can get this mounted on here, and we'll finish out our last L bracket, drill into the splash guard, and get these ready to go. The next step we're gonna take to ensure the safety and security of the splash guard is to install a bolt, rubber washer, and wing nut. This is gonna puncture through the plexiglass of the splash guard. And like I said, it's gonna keep it in place, keep it from bouncing around, and it's also going to allow us to remove these splash guards at any given time we might need to do so. It's very simple since I've already got this L bracket mounted from earlier. Now all I need to do is just puncture a hole into the plexiglass through the extra hole that we're not currently using on the splash guard. And then the one thing that I wanna do while I drill this hole is I don't want the splash guard to be hanging back further. I want it pressed up against that L bracket like it would be if we had it installed. That's gonna ensure that that hole and bolt lines up perfectly. So now that we've got that hole drilled, all we have to do is put in our washer, bolt, and wing nut. One thing that you want to keep in mind is having the wing nut on the inside of the boat. So with that last wing nut bolt in place, our splash guard is now fully secure. It's spaced out perfectly, a 1/4 inch off the back of the transom, so there's going to be no rattling. The splash guard is ready to rock waves. We're going to repeat that exact same process on the other side, so we're going to run a time lapse, and then we will be showing you the finished product. But overall, this is a very, very easy installation process. Not too hard to follow, especially when you have good instructions, which these splash guards do come with. Well, there we go. We have a full set of plexiglass splash guards on the boat. If you guys want to find these products, I'll have the link in the description. They are by a company called Whitecap Manufacturing, located in Shakopee, Minnesota. Everything is so easy to follow. The instructions are great. And overall, it's a very simple process to get these suckers on your boat and to increase the fishability in your boat. I highly recommend checking out a set of splash guards. With all of that being said, if you guys have any questions about this process, let me know down below. Otherwise, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next week.